This isn't just about a football match. It's not just about whose music tops the charts. This is a battle for the soul of a continent. But what if I told you that the biggest rivalry in Africa didn't start with a fight, but with an alliance? That before the Twitter wars and the tragic violence, these two giants were like brothers, united against a common enemy. To understand why Nigeria and South Africa seem to be on a collision course today, you first need to see how they once fought side by side. This is the story of two African titans, locked in a complicated dance of cooperation and competition. Nigeria, the cultural and demographic heavyweight of the West, and South Africa, the economic and institutional powerhouse of the South. Officially, they're partners, working towards a stronger Africa. Their presidents meet, they sign agreements, they shake hands for the cameras. But under the surface, a fierce rivalry is simmering, a sibling squabble that has blown up into a dangerous geopolitical feud. To really get the tension of today, you have to rewind the clock, back to a time when South Africa was suffering under the brutal system of apartheid. During these dark decades, one African nation stood especially tall in its opposition: Nigeria. From the 1960s on, Nigeria became a champion of the anti-apartheid cause. Though it was thousands of miles away from the frontline states that bordered South Africa, its commitment was unwavering. And it wasn't just talk. Nigeria poured money, political backing, and resources into supporting the African National Congress and other liberation movements. The government even established a Southern Africa Relief Fund, which was supported by methods including compulsory deductions from the salaries of civil servants. Nigerian musicians, with Fela Kuti as a leading voice, used their global stage to blast the injustices of white minority rule. This was more than just foreign policy. It felt personal. For many Nigerians, the fight against apartheid was their fight, the final chapter in the liberation of the continent. This forged a powerful bond, a sense of shared destiny. There was a genuine belief that once South Africa was free, this alliance would power a new, prosperous, and unified Africa. Nigerians are incredibly proud of this history, and that feeling of betrayed solidarity is a theme you hear again and again, a sense that South Africa hasn't shown the gratitude they expected. When Nelson Mandela was freed and then elected president in 1994, it felt like that new era had finally arrived. The two giants were at last on the same team, ready to lead Africa into the future. But history, as it often does, had other plans. The dream of a unified engine for African progress started sputtering almost immediately. The end of apartheid didn't just free South Africa politically, it unleashed it economically. All of a sudden, a country that was an international outcast was open for business, and its advanced infrastructure and powerful corporations were ready to expand. And this is where the first real crack appeared. The relationship quickly changed from one of supporter and a liberation movement to one of direct competitors. While Nigeria was grappling with its own military rule in the mid-90s, a newly democratic South Africa began flexing its muscles as a continental leader. A turning point came in 1995. Nelson Mandela publicly condemned the Nigerian military government for the execution of activist Ken Saro-Wiwa. In response, Nigeria's government withdrew the national football team from the 1996 African Cup of Nations hosted in South Africa, kicking off a tit-for-tat dynamic that's still playing out. As the years went on, this competition heated up. South African companies, flush with cash and expertise, saw a massive opportunity in Nigeria's huge and growing market. Brands like MTN, ShopRite, and Standard Bank moved into Nigeria in a big way. This brought investment and jobs, sure, but it also created a narrative of a one-sided relationship. Many Nigerians started to feel that South African companies were dominating their economy and pulling out huge profits, creating an undercurrent of resentment. At the same time, people started moving. Seeing South Africa as a land of opportunity, thousands of Nigerians, from doctors and engineers to small-scale traders, headed south. They were looking for a piece of the post-apartheid dream. But instead of a warm welcome from their supposed brothers, many walked into a society struggling with its own massive problems, like staggering unemployment and inequality. It was in this tense environment that the rivalry would take its ugliest turn. This is the most painful front in the rivalry. It's where geopolitical tension becomes a matter of life and death. The recurring waves of xenophobic violence in South Africa, which have often targeted Nigerians and other African migrants, represent the deepest wound in this broken brotherhood. For years, horrific images have surfaced of mobs targeting foreign-owned shops, burning businesses, and brutally attacking people. These attacks have led to deaths and forced the Nigerian government to organize evacuation flights for its citizens, desperate to escape the violence. From the South African side, the anger is often born from deep economic anxiety. With one of the world's highest unemployment rates, many impoverished South Africans see foreigners as direct competition for scarce jobs and resources. A narrative that blames immigrants for crime and other social problems has taken hold, giving rise to vigilante groups like Operacion Dudula, whose name in isiZulu literally means to force out. These groups march, raid properties, and try to block migrants from accessing hospitals and schools, claiming they are putting South Africans first. From the Nigerian perspective, this is the ultimate betrayal. Many Nigerians in South Africa see themselves as hard-working entrepreneurs who are building up the economy, not tearing it down. They view the accusations of criminality as a crude stereotype used to justify hate. For a nation that gave so much to help free South Africa, seeing its citizens targeted on the streets of Johannesburg is a source of national shame and outrage. This isn't just a social problem, it's a diplomatic nightmare. Each wave of violence triggers a crisis. The Nigerian government issues warnings and faces immense public pressure to hit back. In 2019, tensions got so high that reprisal attacks against South African businesses like MTN and ShopRite broke out in Nigeria. In periods of high tension, governments have even issued travel advisories, and the online rhetoric around events like football matches can become incredibly toxic. This vicious cycle pushes the two giants further apart, destroying what little goodwill is left. As someone who follows the continent closely, it's clear the story is never simple. For a long time, the answer was easy: South Africa. But things have changed, opening up a whole new field of competition. In 2014, after Nigeria rebased its GDP, it officially overtook South Africa as the continent's largest economy. Now, these numbers can go back and forth, but the fact that it's even a debate has changed the psychology. Nigeria now sees itself as the continent's primary economic engine. It's a classic case of Nigeria brings the scale, South Africa brings the structure. Nigeria has the continent's single largest consumer market, well over 200 million people, and an unstoppable entrepreneurial energy. It's chaotic, but full of potential. South Africa offers superior infrastructure, a more diversified economy, and a highly sophisticated corporate and financial sector. Its companies have the organizational muscle to expand across the continent, which they've done very successfully in Nigeria itself. This economic tug-of-war is key to the rivalry. Nigeria wants to turn its economic size into real influence. It resents the trade imbalance and wants to see its own companies become Pan-African giants. Meanwhile, South Africa works to hold its spot as the continent's most advanced economy and the main entry point for global investment. Both nations compete for influence on the global stage. While South Africa is the continent's sole member of the G20, the African Union's recent entry into the group creates a new dynamic where both nations will be central to shaping Africa's collective voice. The official policy might be cooperation, but the gut instinct is pure competition. If the economic war is fought in boardrooms, the cultural war is fought on global playlists, dance floors, and TikTok feeds. This is the battle for Africa's heart and soul, for the right to define what's cool and what represents modern Africa to the world. And right now, that battle is between two sounds: Nigeria's Afrobeats and South Africa's Amapiano. For years, Afrobeats was the undisputed global soundtrack of Africa. Artists like Wizkid, Burna Boy, and Davido hit global superstardom, selling out arenas and projecting an image of Nigerian confidence and creative power. Then came Amapiano. Bubbling up from South Africa's townships, this hypnotic, log drum-driven sound started underground but exploded on social media. Soon, Amapiano dance challenges went viral, and the sound took over clubs from London to Dubai. Suddenly, Nigeria's cultural dominance had a real challenger. This musical rivalry is a perfect symbol for the bigger competition. When South African artist Tyla won the first ever Grammy for Best African Music Performance in 2024 in a category that included Nigerian heavyweights like Burna Boy and Davido, the online reaction was explosive. The debate is often framed as a clash of styles: Afrobeats, with its lyrical storytelling, versus Amapiano, driven by an irresistible vibe and dance. The tension is real, even as many artists themselves are now collaborating, fusing the sounds into something new. And it goes beyond music. It's in the endless social media spats over who makes better jollof rice. It's in fashion, in film, and even in beauty pageants. Each country sees itself as the continent's cultural trendsetter. In the 21st century, soft power is a huge deal, and this is one battle neither side wants to lose. When you put it all together, the tragic violence, the fierce economic contest, and the intense cultural rivalry, the direction seems clear. Nigeria and South Africa are on a collision course. This has moved beyond a simple rivalry into a deep-seated conflict that is hurting both nations and complicating progress for the continent. This broken brotherhood comes at a huge cost. Instead of teaming up to tackle Africa's shared challenges, the continent's two most important players are often stuck in a self-defeating power struggle. Their feud complicates efforts at regional integration, like the African Continental Free Trade Area, and can undermine Africa's collective voice on the world stage. How can Africa project unity when its leading nations are at odds? The relationship is a paradox. They are two powers bound by a shared history, but trapped in a cycle of competition and mistrust. They are in a state of competitive interdependence. They need each other and fight each other at the same time. While their leaders keep meeting and signing papers, the real relationship is being defined by the tension on the streets and the battles for economic and cultural dominance. Fixing this isn't about deciding who the big brother is. It's about recognizing that this sibling squabble has become a continental liability. It demands a level of political will and public empathy that we haven't seen yet. It means confronting the real economic fears in South Africa without excusing the violence they can fuel. It means celebrating culture, not weaponizing it. Until then, Africa's two most vital nations will likely continue down this dangerous path on a collision course fueled by pride, pain, and politics. And the dream of an African century, led by these two powerhouses working together, will remain just that, a dream.